Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you're a Taurus and the other person is a Leo. And this combination is interesting because both of you are fixed signs. And fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. And you square off to Leo. In other words, you are 90 degrees apart. So you make an aspect that is called a square that is tense, that can create conflict, can create butting of heads, power struggles, those kinds of things. And this is going to be true for you in Aquarius as well. But because of the nature of Aquarius and Leo, I think that you're much more inclined to be attracted to Leo than Aquarius. I'm not saying that nobody ever has relationships with Aquarius who happens to be a Taurus, but I think that Leos are more in alignment with what you stand for in some ways. And there might be major differences, but I think that you do have things in common. But I have to mention that you are both fixed signs and that you square off to one another, because any two signs that form a square, for instance, Sagittarius and Virgo form a square, but they are mutable signs and they will be more flexible when they have differences, when they have their own desire to do something. With a Leo, and what I'm saying is that just by nature of two signs forming a square, there will be those power struggles. But when you have a Taurus and a Leo person, or any other two fixed signs, that's going to increase the likelihood of this kind of digging in one's heels, not budging from one's point of view, being very stubborn. And so this is something that you have to be aware of so that you can navigate it, so that you can negotiate with that person. And both of you have to be mature enough emotionally to be able to do this. But I think it can be done. I don't think anything is impossible just because you happen to be, two particular signs. So, Taurus is a fixed earth sign, and you're the first earth sign. So it's like a child in nature, a child who is just in love with the physical world around them. And the five senses, the sensuality, are ruled by Venus. So there's that love of pleasure that is associated with Taurus. And because it's the first sign, it's just kind of an unbridled pleasure. It doesn't have this artifice, this mask. It's just, enjoying it for its own sake and not feeling ashamed, not feeling like there's something that you have to apologize for. Leo is ruled by the sun, and it rules the fifth house, which is the house of pleasure. So there is a definite situation involved with these two signs where they're both on the same page. And both of these signs love luxury. Venus, your ruler, is about money and possessions. And for Leo, there is a desire to adorn oneself, to feel proud. I mean, they always have the lion for Leo the lion, because the lion symbolizes that kind of pride. That, the belief that one is deserving of the finest in life. And so, Leo gets the reputation sometimes of being a narcissist or, egotist, in a milder form. And yet there is something healthy about believing that you're deserving of things. So both of you are going to be on the same page when it comes to wanting, the finer things in life. You might think that that's not really that important or even kind of shallow, but you would be surprised, because I did read that money is the number one thing that people fight about. And whether that is true, a universal truth, I don't know. But I will say that it certainly seems to be a source of tension when one person is very into saving money and the other person likes to spend money, and they can't kind of come to some kind of happy medium. So both of you will have no problem with that area of life. Now you have to look at, whether you can financially swing it. But I think that both of you are good money earners as well. And Leo is generous, so that always is a nice touch. Because you both enjoy pleasure, fun things are going to be Leo, the fifth house that Leo rules is about games, parties, amusements, sports, anything, maybe going to concerts or something. Taurus, you're very, oh yeah, that's another thing. I didn't write or type this out, but another thing too is that there may be like a love of art and music and things like that you have in common, because you're ruled by Venus, and Venus can be the arts, and Leo's connected to entertainment and even being like an artist, a performer, something along those lines. And so that can mean that you both enjoy music and you go to concerts on a regular basis. So that's where the fun comes in, the pleasure, sexual fireworks. I rank Taurus and Leo as two of the most highly sensual signs. And so this is another area where compatibility can make or break a relationship. If, one person is not as into it as the other, then that could be problematic. Now, obviously, you have to base your relationship on more than just the physical part of it. If you don't have other things going on, that could be definitely a one-dimensional relationship. So, in any case, that's something that you could have in common. Now, stability. You're both fixed signs. Loyalty is valued with both of these signs. So even if you are very sensual, you may prefer to express that with the same person all the time, that you're not just constantly looking for a new conquest, or that other person isn't. So you can trust that person, because fixed signs tend to be, what is that word? I was going to say durable, enduring, but what I mean is stable, stability. They're stable. They are, I'm always searching for the perfect word, but basically what I mean is it's loyalty, obviously, but it's someone who is unwavering, in their affection. So they're not going to just go to, from one person to the next. Now, I will say that this is going to be dependent on the other factors as well, because what if you're a Taurus and you have Venus in Gemini? You're much more likely to be fickle. You're much more, and the moon, forget about the moon. If your moon is in Gemini or Pisces, or, something that has a tendency to kind of twist in the wind, you might be more, likely to not be loyal. And it wouldn't be necessarily because you didn't care about your partner. You just might be somebody who gets bored easily. And so you just want that kind of novelty or that stimulation from a new person. So, but that in general, I think that is a good thing, that you're both stable, and stability too can be in terms of employment, that you don't, just go from one job to the next, that you tend to put in your time with one company and things like that. And you're just geared towards staying with the same thing. Whether it's a person or whether it's a company that you work for. And another thing I could have said, gosh, I began to think of more things as I started doing this. Perhaps you meet in some kind of an artistic setting, like at an open mic night or in a theater, that you're both doing that type of work, even if it's like a hobby. Now, let's talk about some of the things that could be challenging. First of all, I put both stubborn AF as, what? And that's because you're both fixed signs. Stubbornness, obstinacy, whatever you're going to call it, can lead to a lack of flexibility, rigid mentality, inability to reason. Sometimes with Taurus, there's a lack of reason. I actually have Taurus rising, so I may even have a few of these qualities myself. But just like kind of digging in your heels, and it's like when you make up your mind, that's it. Well, Leo is going to be similar. And something's got to give. Somebody has to give in to the other. And in the best case scenario, you negotiate with each other and each person gets something for themselves and nobody has to give up everything. You're both possessive. So jealousy can be an issue. I would say out of the two of you, Taurus, are more likely because you rule the house of income, personal income and possessions, and you treat the people around you like possessions. Now, I don't mean that in a mean way, bad way. It's just simply that they are at your disposal. They're there for you. And so if they go off the reservation, then that can infuriate you. And you're not the type to get that angry. You're pretty chilled out. But that could make you mad when they go against what you want because you feel like if they are somebody in your life that they belong to you. And this could even be friendships that you're like this. Leo is more interested in being the center of attention. And if you are talking to somebody else, or let's say you have a child with such a person, they may be jealous of the baby. And we can say, oh, that's silly. What kind of a person is jealous of their own child? But I think there's a certain aspect of human nature attached to that because we all want to feel like we matter. And if somebody feels neglected because somebody else has come along, it's going to trigger those feelings of insecurity. But, taken to the extreme, it can be a very drama-filled relationship if both people are acting out with these jealousy issues or possessiveness. Leo is a fire sign. You're an earth sign. Fire signs can get fiery. He or she can have a hot temper. And because you're an earth sign and because you're ruled by Venus, you want to keep the peace. Now, that's not to say that a Leo or that a Taurus person cannot get angry. Don't get it twisted, because a Taurus person can absolutely get angry and they can really lose it or you can really lose it because you let it build up. You're not the type to just kind of erupt anytime that you're angry. And when somebody finally waves that red cape in front of the bull for the last time, that could be when you just erupt like a volcano. So, but in general, Leo is going to be the person who does this on a regular basis. And if it's excessive, it can be a rageaholic. And an imbalanced Leo can be, a petty tyrant, can be somebody who bullies others to get their way all the time. So that can be problematic because you're not going to back down. You're somebody who wants your way too, even if you don't utilize the same tactics. Leo is more extroverted. You're more of a homebody. You may like parties, but you prefer probably intimate gatherings with longtime friends in somebody's house. Leo wants to go out on the town a lot, maybe. Leo's a masculine sign. Taurus is a feminine sign. Feminine signs, earth and water signs, tend to be homebodies. Not that they never want to go out, but they just really enjoy being in their home environment or somebody else's home that they're close to. So sometimes, depending on how much of an extrovert one person is and how much of an introvert the other is, that can also create a lot of problems with not being able to kind of negotiate what you do in your free time. You're and in a similar vein, you're very into earthy pursuits. So you're very outdoorsy, usually, or as an earth sign, and you might not be afraid to get your hands dirty, whether it's gardening, whether it's camping. Leo is more of the royalties, so they may be one of those signs that is not necessarily that enamored by the prospect of camping. They may prefer to go to a 4-star hotel if they're going to do something for a vacation. And while you're capable of doing that, you're pretty down to earth. Like even Taurians who enjoy kind of the finer things in life, for you this might just be limited to fine dining or so going to a nicer restaurant or nice clothing. You might not want to take it to the nth degree, the same way Leo does. And you may, I get the feeling in my experience that Taurus is disdainful of pretentious people. And unfortunately, unbalanced Leos can be pretentious, very arrogant, putting on airs, and, and acting very snobbish. And this is going to be a real turnoff to the average Taurus person who is well balanced. Because you are very, I've mentioned this many times, I say meat and potatoes type of person, just basic. But that's not something, I still don't know what it means when they say basic bitch. I don't know what that means. I'm not saying anything, and I don't think it's a good thing, so I'm not going to say that. When I say basic, uncomplicated is what I mean. And like I said, I have Taurus rising. I appreciate that because I think that people who present themselves as very complicated and high maintenance tend to be real pains in the butt to deal with. And let's face it, life is hard enough. We don't need to make it harder with pretentious people in our lives or behaviors that are just over the top and things like that. The diva thing, that could be Leo if they're imbalanced. I keep saying if they're imbalanced because this is not going to be true of Leos across the board. And you might even have the moon in Leo, so you may have certain qualities that make you not necessarily like that, but the positive expression of that. Very, rather than a diva, very theatrical in a way that you have talent in that area and you're very entertaining and people enjoy being around you. The need for self-attention may start to wear at you eventually if Leo is demanding of that, because you have your own mind and your own life and you don't want to be catering to somebody else's needs 24/7. So because of that, you you know, you really may feel like the Leo person is more of a narcissist, and that they are demanding that you revolve your life around them. Of course, it goes without saying that that's a red flag if you're dealing with somebody like that. In general, I think that of all the squares, this might be the one of the ones that in certain cases can actually work out, because I think that going back to what I originally said, when I was talking about pleasure, it's not just about specific things connected to pleasure. It's about an attitude. It's about an attitude that life is meant to be enjoyable. And it seems like it would go without saying, but there are a lot of people who actually seem to enjoy depriving themselves of things because I mean, we could go into why I think that is. I'm not going to get into that. But I think one thing is not feeling worthy of deserving it. That's just one possibility. And it's always nice when two people come together and they can appreciate the things that life provides that make life easier and more pleasant and more enjoyable. And there's no apologies. There's no like, okay, we're going to order this dessert. Oh, and berate yourself before you have the dessert. It's just like pure enjoyment and feeling that that there's nothing wrong with that. I guess it's versus that puritanical attitude. So the real trick is not to go the other direction and to become hedonistic. And that's something that people do when they're trying to fill emptiness inside. So if a person is balanced, they are able to appreciate the pleasures in life without becoming overly indulgent. So there you go. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this, Taurus. If you would like a personal reading, please check out what I have to offer. The link is below. And thanks for listening. Bye.